There is a saying in Africa that until the lion learns to tell its tale, the tale of the hunt glorifies the hunter. If you tell your story, the hunter will not get away with murder. The hunter has no business telling the world that is better than you because you are the king of the jungle.
Story warrior, we rise and we lead from the motherland slain. Stories of power, remember the name. Business warrior, voices that shine, African spirit in every line. Lead, inspire, tell your story. Legacy in motion, this is our glory. Story warriors at your word.
My name is Gideon Fumukwai, and today I am in absolute awe of two amazing African storytellers, ladies who are pioneers, not just in the motherland, but beyond. They come from different parts of Africa, and they're here to tell us what does it take to tell the African story thousands of miles away, especially in a land as convoluted as America, with a myriad of stories. How is it that they're able to pierce through the fog, pierce through the darkness, and take a claim to their own story, to the African story in the diaspora? I'm talking about Madame Anna Heron and Madame Masha. Joining me from, ladies, where are you joining from? Please, go ahead.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Okay. When I grow up, I want to live in Washington, D.C. again. How about Anna?
It's a beautiful city.
It is. I lived there for 2 years just before the pandemic, and the pandemic kicked me out. Anna,
Yes, same. I moved here during the pandemic, just outside Maryland.
While I was moving out, you were moving in. Okay, my tale very quickly was I stayed there because I was doing corporate training around the Northeast corridor, and I stayed in Maryland, 15 minutes from the airport, so I could fly out every Sunday and only come back Friday night. So when everything was started, everything was stopped, you could not get out of the home. Why was I living there? So I packed my bags and moved back to Oregon, where my wife was living. And you were moving into the heart of the beast in DC. Why were you moving to DC at that time, if you don't mind?
Just life. I moved out of New York, and then it was around the same time you moved, right, Masha?
That's correct. Yeah, about 3.5, 4 years now.
Wow. Has it been a good move?
The other side of the continent. Masha, you were from
California at the time.
California? What?
Yes.
All the way across. Okay, I was
the area.
Interesting. But has it been a good move? Are you finding more stories to tell in the DC metropolis?
I think absolutely. I think there's a plethora of Black and brown and Pan-African faces here. Yes. I find that communities are more easily built and sustained in Washington, D.C. than they are in the Bay Area. And I think that there's just a plethora of both transplants, but also individuals who are incredibly worldly in Washington, D.C. So it really provides a breadth of experience.
Okay. Is that the same for you, Anna, moving from New York, where the best food? I know that whenever I was assigned to train in New York, I loved it because I know I could just get down the hotel, I could find food from any corner of the universe. How could you move from such a food heaven to a place where you may find it, but you have to drive a bit of time?
Yeah, I think you nailed the hammer, like right on the head. Because it's a lot of driving. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
It's a different lifestyle for sure to like the city. I think maybe if I lived in the city like Masha and DC, it would be different in New York compared to New York.
Yeah.
But definitely stories. I mean, they're suburban and urban stories, right? Mm-hmm. So the storytelling goes on. That's for sure.
Okay. And a little bit more room to breathe. Not too congested, so you can actually maybe cross-pollinate your stories better before you take them to the stage. But let's get down to the meat of this. You ladies are what I call pioneers, trailblazers in the world of African storytelling, especially when it comes to screenwriting. Talk to us about your business and talk to us about why that is your business. Why didn't you go do nursing? Why didn't you go do medicine? Why didn't you go do IT where everybody else is going? You're going against the grain. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, I think story writing for me is definitely swimming up against the current because it's not an easy field to break into, especially as a female, Black female writer. So I think that the statistics speak for themselves in terms of how many Black female screenwriters there are, just not that many, right? And so I think the inspiration behind starting a podcast, starting a retreat is really to say, well, how many are we really? And let's use the technology that is available to connect. So if you are in the diaspora or you are of, African descent or have stories relating to that and want to interact, there are now so many things in place that weren't available before, right, that allow us to connect. And I think it, again, started in the pandemic where I realized, well, we're disconnected, but not necessarily that disconnected. Yeah. So while before the motivation to write stories or tell stories was more about seeing representation, on our screens, I feel like now there's a lot of stories being told, but nobody's really out there talking about them. Or if we are, we're not speaking about them on our own platforms, even when it comes to critiquing. And so the podcast is just sharing what filmmakers went through to get their stories told, where you can find them, things like that, and just having a record and archive of it as well. And then the retreat is more about enabling the skills behind story writing to be transferred through mentorship and just really relaxing spaces.
Okay. Is that the same for Miss Masha?
Yes. So I would agree wholeheartedly with what Anna said and just add that being from West African descent myself and having spent over a decade in diversity work for technology companies like Google and Eventbrite and DocuSign, I have really found myself listening to diverse stories from the Pan-African diaspora for years. And it started as a child, the concept of sharing stories and family traditions orally and having connection to your roots through storytelling has always been really pivotal in the building of my character and my life and what I saw for myself. And so I think there has just been a deeply rooted sense of ownership of these stories and also responsibility for them. And so when I think about Pangea's Writers Retreat, as well as the Pan-African podcast, I really hope that all of us will take collective responsibility for keeping these stories alive, treasured, and heard. And then the final thing that comes to my mind, especially at this precipice that we're at within the world stage, as well as our US government currently, we are really seeing the degradation of historical stories in a way that is unprecedented. And so when I think about our responsibility to keep those stories alive, it kind of puts a fire in my belly that says, there's work to be done. How do we really come together and collaborate to do so? And so it's really critical at this point in time.
Hey, is your story working for you, or it's just sitting there and gathering a lot of dust? Do you know your story is a powerful, invisible asset? Your story is your superpower, provided you know how to tell it. Give me 15 minutes. I will audit your story and make it unforgettable. It will generate buzz, it will generate engagement, and above all, it will create business for you. Give me 15 minutes. I can coach you on how to tell your story in the most captivating way possible. My name is Gideon Fumukwai, the story warrior. I help people like you to tell fascinating stories. So please click below and sign up, and I'll be happy to work with you. Thank you so much.
Okay. I believe that's a vuvuzela moment where I need to blast it off and call all the other fellow Africans to draw closer, please come closer, because if you heard what I heard, these African pioneer storytelling women are telling us that there's an assault on the African story. The African story is under duress, and we need people to protect that story. We need protectors. So my question to you, as people who are in the avant-garde, who you are out there, how is the world responding to your defense of the African story in a place as cosmopolitan as Washington, D.C.? How's the response to that?
I'll jump in and just say that I
Yes.
think it's been really well received. I think people are looking for support in this area. I think there are more stories that are coming to the forefront, and we're starting to see them on main screen. Seeing
Want to drop one or two names, or two, because people may think this is so relevant and so temporary. I mean, so contemporary. You want to drop one or two names that people are drawn to stories?
There's a ton of African films that are being produced, not only in places like Nigeria and East and West Africa, but they're starting to show these films on Netflix. So we're seeing literally people bringing things to our doorsteps. So a couple of the ones that I've enjoyed, there's one called Beast of No Nation. 9 is a really, really great one for people if you're interested. Heart of the Hunter, also really excellent. And the other thing that actually came to my mind in terms of the main screen was actually that 2025 movie that's been getting a lot of press and awards, Sinners. They have put so many references to the African diaspora there, and it was really beautiful to see, from drums being played in that music scene to beaded warriors showing up in place, that it really reminded me that there are ways that the African diaspora also affects American filmmaking in a way that many people don't think about. So I think it's widespread and it's starting to really take root. And I think we'll see much, much more of this over the years to come.
Thank you. Before Miss Anna jumps in there, I want to acknowledge that I've had one author here on this platform, Story Warrior Podcast, who is from Nigeria, and he wrote a book that was adapted and produced by Netflix.
Wow.
Why? Because the book stood at the intersection of many things: politics, culture, and land ownership in Africa. Land ownership in Africa is a little bit similar to land ownership in other places. But also, you mentioned Sinners and the others, which I've not watched. I have to go watch them now. But let's go to Madam Anna. Can we protect the African story? Is it under protection? And if so, are people responding positively to maybe the retreat that you lead or the other aspects of your work?
Yeah, I think the African story, it doesn't need protecting in the sense of like endangered species, right? Like it's just in terms of I think undervaluing ourselves, which is often how we get misinterpreted or badly portrayed, misappropriated, like undervalued essentially. If you look at what happened to hip hop, it went global, but then it's like only when you could sell it to a certain community that it could become lucrative. And it's the same when you're a screenwriter. It's different to writing for publishing. It's for the screen means that everyone's asking you, so what have you made, in order to state your worth or your claim to have established a career. And so that's why it's a little more challenging. But at the same time, everything is becoming screenwriting because everybody's on their screens all day now.
We are currently, for those who are not watching, we are currently on screens right now. We are all screenagers, so to speak. All right, go ahead, ma'am.
Exactly. So writing for the screen is even more important than when we were teaching more long form writing, creative writing, right? So it is getting shorter and shorter form, as we all know. And it's about capturing the audience and some of the all the tricks that, Hollywood taught will always stand because they actually mastered that. They mastered the concept of the wow factor and creating those heroes, creating those moments, those magical moments. They actually worked for centuries doing that, and it works. There's like truths to how to create that magical story, right? So that's one aspect. But at the same time, I feel that there are things that we can learn from an industry that we don't necessarily have to repeat. And valuing the way we write the story is very important, because it all starts with the word.
Yes.
And so like it's how you start to tell your tale. When you said like, oh, whose perspective is it? Is it the hunter or is it the hunted?
Right.
And oftentimes it's like like everything. It's like, yeah, if you're a great director or a great actor, you can play any role or you can direct any film. But if you are a Black writer who's had childhood traumas or understand a certain perspective or optic, you're going to make sure that that perspective or optic is represented visually and, the voice is heard.
That reminds me of maybe what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talks about, the danger of one story.
Yes.
And yes, we know there are 1.4 billion people in Africa. My question to you as screenwriters is, the work that you're receiving, those that you're training, are they projecting Africa through the one story lens, or are they working hard to project Africa through the myriad of colors, the myriad of tales and views and angles that Africans really possess? Because Africa is one of the most diverse places on earth. And unless somebody has taken the time and the discipline to read and learn, they will not acknowledge that. They think that's one village or one country. So are you seeing those views through the stories that are coming to you?
Yeah, I think we're getting submissions from diverse kind of perspectives for sure. Like just the fact that other calls for screenplays are restricted to some locality by citizenship or regionality or whatever the requirements are for the applications is part of why we're intentionally Pan-African. So it's inclusive of the diaspora all over the continent, and really like everybody's originally from Africa, and that's why we went with the name Pangean, because ultimately, even Avatar has, as many articles have been written and so many critiques have spoken on and commented on like the African nuances, from the Pangean islands that are inspired within the series itself. And so, obviously Black Panther did a lot of things for the continent in terms of understanding the globality of our reach. But I think it's tiring for the West to always be the one holding the mirror up, right? We've got to see each other and our worth for what we are. So that's what the call is about. It's about like, okay, if we don't have the borders that don't even matter to us anyway, how many writers are there? Like, how many creators are there that speak about these stories? And how can we be more supportive to make them as authentic as possible, so that when they hit the market, whatever market that might be, you've got a polished product that the craft has been developed as much as possible.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I would actually
Go ahead, man.
Hey, that there is a real rise in Pan-African media alliances right now. So similar to the African Film Press that was founded in 2024, we're seeing an increase of collaboration across Africa, Caribbean, and the US and European diaspora. So I think there's a real opportunity for growth of Afrofuturism and cross-cultural storytelling movements.
Very cool. Where are the story hotbeds, so to speak? You could look at it from a regional standpoint. You could look at it from a story standpoint. What are the hotbeds? Nollywood has always been famous, or has always been around in our balance for a while. But what are the other hotspots you're seeing? New content surging, coming out. There's an upwelling of content that's coming out. And what areas? I've heard people throw the word Afrofuturism very often. I'm yet to go find a dictionary. I don't have a dictionary anymore to go find out what it means. But what are the hot areas? Drop some names, drop some countries, drop some regions.
Yeah.
I think the main concepts of South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya being the regional leaders, and Egypt has always had its own market, but alongside Egypt, there's a huge new, I would say even like leading presence in Morocco in terms of the Moroccan Film Festival taking over in the northern hemisphere, in the northern section, very much so. But like you said, Nollywood isn't necessarily all it is cut out to be in terms of independent cinema. There's definitely that market, but I do think they position themselves under a specific genre, whereas the whole region is much broader. Like Senegalese independent film, Burkina Faso's festival is now opened up to be cross both languages and include English and French. So that opens up a whole different market into a very historical presence in the region. And then there's also on the West Coast, Ghana, right? Like I know there's a lot of pushing by the Ghanaian authorities, quantifying what their creative industry looks like and opening it up internationally, right? So there's all of that going on. It's very exciting across the continent, I think. There's the Central African countries who are still producing a lot of content despite, a lot of uncertainties politically. If you think about the content coming out of Sudan, even DRC, like even Cameroon, where you're from, has a presence now. Yeah, like there's stuff from all over. But obviously the big ones are still like, Kenya in the east. I know there's a lot going on even in Ethiopia, but I think Kenya kind of dominates the east market. And then South Africa still claims, the big pie. And it's hard to convince them to look to each other before they look to the West. That's what I found
which is a blind spot, I think. I would argue it's a blind spot because
with all the conversations, they always seem to be more comfortable
with the West.
Or I still feel like, we have the perception that financially it's always going to be more lucrative to produce the West.
Do you share that view, Masha?
I think that is where we are. And I think the concepts that we discussed earlier, like Afrofuturism, are really helping us move into a different space. I actually was thinking also about hotbeds in terms of platforms.
Yes.
So when we talk about screenwriting, we often think film and feature films and perhaps on the big screen. But social media and other platforms like Substack and Wattpad are really starting to democratize the industry in a way that I think will change that narrative over time. So we're giving more access to people to be able to share their stories in a number of spaces. The space that I think is most booming currently is actually around music as a narrative. So when we Afro beats and Ampiano, there's so many voices that are coming from the African diaspora that are really leveraging the music space to take a foothold on both storytelling and then also the monetization of that storytelling. But I think over time, social media and some of those other platforms are really going to help to spread that wealth directly into the hands of African and Pan-African folks.
Thank you. And people don't give enough credit to Ethiopian music. I know Anna is originally from there. Anna, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Yes.
Okay. So you know the impact of Ethiopian artists on countries like Canada. They probably the only African star that has performed at a Super Bowl stage is from Ethiopia, but he's Canadian by upbringing. And that's also a huge area that we've not even had the time to talk about. This last weekend, I went over to Omaha, Nebraska. You should have seen the models on stage there at the Fashion Week, African Fashion Week in Omaha. 70% of the people in the room were not Africans by definition. As you can see, you could guess, I could be wrong. There are all shades of people from Africa. But you could tell that these are just traditional Americans that have bought into African culture. And they were there to see African designers tell stories through the fashion. It was so beautiful. It was so interesting. There were models from all backgrounds. There were designers from all backgrounds, from Africa and beyond. And it got me thinking, we are really in possession of our story, but we're just not bold enough to tell it. When I saw Yosundo perform in Singapore, and he was considered the best performer there in that year, way back more than 10 years, in fact, more than 15 years. And the way he was able to move the audience, the way the audience was able to move with him, you just know that we've always had possession of our story. The problem is not the lack of the story, but that we don't tell it. So for those who want to tell their story very effectively through the screen, how can they contact you, Anna? How can they contact you, Masha? I'd like for us to sum it here and hopefully come back to this as you prepare your retreat for the next year and do another follow-up or sequel.
Yes, absolutely. You should submit your script, and you can submit it at info@panafricanfilm.com, but you can go to the website for all the information, which is pangeafilm.com. So Pangea is actually spelled Pangaea.
Okay,
Pangea.
You can provide that info to me so that I will put into the show notes so that people can know how to contact you.
Okay.
Is that the same for Masha?
Absolutely. I can be reached at pangeafilm.com or panafricanfilm.com. You can also find me on pretty much any platform. I, true to form, use my name, Masha Ka. I'm very proud of it. So LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, and I'm happy to respond.
So before you go, I typically like to quiz our guests with a quick story. I just took a quick photo. Now, if I came to you and say, hey, ladies, I got this. Can you tell me a story about this? That's a little goat or calabash, as they call it in Cameroon. Or would you prefer to tell me a story about this other one? Guess what's inside?
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses. Good try. Good try. Egusi seeds.
Oh.
So which would you prefer? A quick story about the seeds or the goat that holds the calabash that holds a lot of seeds? Which would you prefer? Just 60 seconds each.
You go first, Anna.
Oh, wow. So I'll go first, but I'm not familiar with either of those because we don't really have those on the east side.
Okay. So to be fair to you,
Okay.
I can bring something else if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Feathers.
Feathers. I'll take the feathers. Yeah.
60 seconds. Yeah.
60 seconds. So, wow. Feathers make me think of angels. And I know like the ones that you brought out are really more look like the feathers for a festival.
Westernized festival.
Yeah, like a Caribbean festival. But for me, they're more symbolic of like angels and have like peace connotations to them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Masha, Egusi, I'm sure you probably know this or have seen this.
We know the seed, yes. Okay, I'm going to go with the seed, and I'm going to say that a seed starts a life. And as Egusi seeds were made, the West African people really developed that seed into a number of things. And it really shows the ingenuity and creativity of our culture, that one seed can turn into soup, can turn into yam, can turn into pudding. We just have so many incredible creations that came from a little tiny seed. And it actually makes me think of storytelling, which is that if you have an idea, you could put that seed into word, into action, and then submit it to panafricanfilm.com.
Yeah.
Bingo. That's another vuvuzela. Okay, thank you so much, ladies. I am so grateful. I would love for this conversation to continue, but I have to jump on another platform. There is a saying I learned in Asia. They said you can count the number of seeds in a durian, but you cannot count the number of durians in a seed. So I want to thank you, because you can count the number of people that are touched by a story, by one story, but you cannot count the number of people that will touch other people as a result of that story. So thank you for telling. Thank you for projecting those stories of our continent. And I appreciate you for making the time to come share with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.